What's going on, fellow A-plusters? It is I, your host, Adam Perez, certainly coming through once again with a brand new episode as we're set to go ahead and get into Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode number 2 for you guys as we got ourselves a back-to-back premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi earlier this morning, or for some of us, rather early as of yesterday evening. So we've had the opportunity to sit down and digest these episodes and certainly go ahead and bring you guys our review. So if you are looking for your Obi-Wan Kenobi reviews, this is the channel. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, guys. But let's go ahead and dive into episode number 2 as good old Obi-Wan Kenobi finally makes it to his destination in Dayu in the attempt to go ahead and rescue Princess Leia, who has in fact been kidnapped, and really trying to draw him in by good old Reva, who has in fact hired these bounty hunters, whatever the case may be, to go ahead and not only capture Leia, but really do their best to certainly draw him in. And Reva gets what she certainly wants in here. And again, Moses Ingram continues to truly impress me in here. I mean, getting the opportunity to see her commitment once again to go ahead and bringing Obi-Wan Kenobi in, even if it means pushing back against all the other Inquisitors. Like, maybe her peers it's cool to push back against, right? The other sisters, the fifth brother, whatever the case may be. But when you start trying to push against the actions and the orders of that of the Grand Inquisitor, we definitely have some problems here. And listen, leave it up to the Sith, right? Leave it up to the dark side, if you will, to constantly have that clash of power, if you will. Also, clearly Reva and the Grand Inquisitor certainly not seeing eye to eye in here. Neither of them, any of them certainly can't be trusted, to say the least. But Reva certainly feels some type of way, especially when it comes to the Grand Inquisitor, referring to her like as the lesser of all of them, right? I think one of the lines he says is, "You are the least of us," and talking about the idea that you can kind of still smell her stench. I do find it interesting that one of my theories was that Reva, possibly as a young Padawan, was certainly captured and maybe brought into feeling the dark side type of way, you know what I mean? But according to the Grand Inquisitor in here, she approached them. I'm still under the impression that Reva is one of those younglings that we saw in the very beginning of episode number 1. So the notion of her being on her own at some point, or something happening in her life where she comes to the Inquisitors to then be one of them, with this animosity, with these negative feelings clearly towards the Jedi, maybe one particular person in general, who knows. I find that pretty interesting. So when he says you're the least of us, that we can still smell the stench, it feels very much like he's referring the idea that you were a Jedi at one point in time. He does also say in this episode, Obi-Wan Kenobi, that that's what the Inquisitors are, or Jedi that have turned to the dark side. But I guess I've always I thought I was under the impression that when it comes to the Inquisitors, they were, while yes, they were Force sensitive, maybe some of them were past Jedi, but I feel like these are now new Force sensitive beings that the Empire has certainly acquired, and is certainly changing sort of their mentality to become Inquisitors and be the Jedi hunters. It could be a combination of both, honestly, in here, if you ask me. But I am fascinated at this idea that Grand Inquisitor feels some type of way. It feels like maybe because she certainly was a Jedi before she became an Inquisitor, right? You didn't come from the dark side, if you will, right? Like, that wasn't your natural place of your upbringing. So I do wonder if that has anything to do with it. And while she's certainly ordered to stand down by the Grand Inquisitor, the fact that her plan alone is working, and she finally has Obi-Wan Kenobi there where she certainly was hoping that he would be, she's this close to certainly bringing him back before we get the opportunity to see the Grand Inquisitor once again trying to ruin her plans. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I did not expect the opportunity to see the Grand Inquisitor skewered with a lightsaber in here. I felt like that moment was probably coming with Reva, in the sense of, you know, at some point in time she's gonna snap. I didn't know it was gonna be this early in episode number 2. And listen, I've already heard some pushback from some fans that this kind of messes up the canon, right? The Star Wars timeline. Because if you do go back to Star Wars Rebels, the animated series by Dave Filoni, the Grand Inquisitor is very much alive, giving our Rebels certainly a lot to worry about and fight over. And so the idea of seeing the Grand Inquisitor in here skewered by a lightsaber by one of his own and Reva, and seemingly left for dead, it does beg the question in the sense of, are we messing up with Star Wars continuity here? Now, my pushback to that is the series isn't over quite yet, right? Like, are we sure that the Grand Inquisitor has in fact perished? Is there an opportunity that by the end of this season, he does in fact come back, that he has survived a lightsaber to the stomach? Maybe the hatred that he now has for Reva is certainly what kept him alive, right? And so that's just simply me assuming. It's just, I don't want to say it's hard to believe that Lucasfilm would mess up canon. I mean, come on now, right? It's not like either they haven't or it's not a possibility. But my thing would simply be, based off of how many different scripts and how the format changed from a movie to a series, then I gotta think that there are a bunch of storyboard editors, people in regards to the timeline that you have to put this script by, most notably Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo. I do wonder if there is somebody within Lucasfilm that said he needs to survive by the end of this series because he's in Star Wars Rebels. So I am hoping that that's the case, and that while we see her skewer the Grand Inquisitor in this episode and we think he's dead, that he in fact is still alive by the end of this series. So I'm not going to assume that they've jacked up continuity as of yet. If anything, I'm definitely going to give the opportunity for this series to certainly tell a story that it wants to, and then I'll definitely go look back and see how much it actually has affected or changed what we know of the original trilogy so far. But Reva continues to impress, man. You know what I mean? You can't run forever, Obi-Wan, or whatever she screams once Obi-Wan gets onto the transport. What I do find interesting is that I don't think either of them have seen Obi-Wan while she's talking to him, right? Like, Reva knows that he's in the cargo. She can feel him. She could sense his fear, sort of thing, which, mind you, Deborah Chow as the director works incredibly well in here. That shot of her coming into the cargo hole, that weird angle sort of looking up as we see her elongate her lightsaber, that very it's got that like creepy serial killer vibe, or like Jason walking into a house looking for teenagers to kill, sort of thing, right? There is a horror element towards that shot that I'm a really big fan of, and just screams Reva's personality, especially in that particular moment. And the revelation, if you will, to be the one to let Obi-Wan Kenobi know that Anakin is alive. That's clearly Reva just taking a knife, putting it in his back, and twisting it just a little bit, or stabbing him in the side, knowing that little bit of information is really going to go ahead and drive Obi-Wan crazy. And I got to give props to Ewan McGregor in here once again for just an amazing performance, guys. But Reva continues to impress. Moses Ingram looks as villainous and as committed and dedicated as it comes. And even the fifth brother in here references the idea that she's doing this in search of favor. And you got to think that she either has a bone to pick with Obi-Wan herself, or she really is trying to get in favor and have power alongside Darth Vader by certainly doing his bidding and showing just how faithful of a servant she could possibly be. So I definitely think she's got two reasons as to why she's doing what she's doing, and I cannot wait to see how the rest of her story winds up playing itself out. Secondly, we got to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi in here, man. Ewan McGregor. I do want to work backwards and talk really about the end of this episode. The shock and awe and just the expression on Obi-Wan Kenobi's face when he hears the words Vader, understanding now that good old Anakin Skywalker is in fact alive and that he's been hunting him, looking for him this entire time. When we see the reaction on Ewan's face, for some reason, my mind immediately went back to Revenge of the Sith, where we see Anakin Skywalker burned, disfigured, trying to climb out of this, climb out of this pit as he's burning and things like that. And I just remember his line, "I hate you." Right? Like, just the hatred that this man has towards Obi-Wan Kenobi now, truly pushing him to survive their last encounter. And he's been on his mind for the past 10 years, bro. 10 years. And it's just interesting to me one, this personal story between these two continues to get more and more fascinating, but also the idea of getting to see just how little connection Obi-Wan has to the Force. Like, the struggle alone in this episode for him to save Princess Leia from falling, just to keep her levitated enough. And to think of where he's come in the past 10 years to where Vader has gone in the past 10 years. And certainly while he's more machine than man, you gotta think at this point in time, he's much more stronger than what Obi-Wan Kenobi certainly is. And so to have that last shot of this be Vader opening his eyes and the returning Hayden Christensen, I would assume in fantastic prosthetics, looking with those big beady red eyes of his, the hatred in his eyes, and you balance that out with what felt like PTSD that freaking Obi-Wan Kenobi was going through. I mean, Ewan McGregor just brings the emotion and the weight of what Obi-Wan Kenobi is experiencing to life in such a way that truly makes me so thrilled that he's back to go ahead and portray this character and really do justice to not only the script, but to Star Wars lore in general. And so I absolutely love the last sequence that we wind up getting here in this particular episode. But outside of that, the chemistry with Obi-Wan and Leia I thought was precious. I thought it really worked with one another. The fact that he's surprised that she's 10 years old, because she certainly acts much older than her age, screams Carrie Fisher to me, if you ask me. Screams a Princess Leia that we certainly know and love from the original trilogy and beyond. I really do feel like this young actress definitely captures her personality, and I really enjoy that. The constant questioning of, you know, should I trust you? Should I not trust you? Are you a stranger? How are you related to my parents, right? The idea of them still certainly keeping their secrets, but then seeing Obi-Wan do his best to try and connect with her a little bit when they do have some downtime inside of the alley, right? And she starts referencing the idea that maybe she doesn't want to necessarily go back, right? Like, what is there to certainly go back to? That style of living is just not necessarily her own. So there definitely is more to Leia than what certainly meets the eye. And based off of just how Obi-Wan reacted to the news in episode 1 that he's got to save the sister, even though he's saving the boy, he doesn't really know what Leia is certainly like. So for him to now get attached, or now see the other twin, if you will, and have to learn a little bit about her, I kind of like the attachment that they wind up getting in here, especially when he does in fact prove to her that she is in fact a Jedi, and she winds up trusting him certainly a little bit more. But that adventure to certainly get there is fun. Her how spoiled she is, especially when he's trying to disguise her and stuff, and gets her like a jacket with the hoodie, and she starts putting on gloves. He's like, you don't need gloves, and she keeps putting them on anyway. He's like, we'll take the gloves. Like, I absolutely love it, the idea that this child is literally commanding you, bro. Like, she's literally just not listening to you, and you just got to do what she asks. There is a really fun sort of dynamic about that I kind of enjoy. And so for me, it was really precious to see those two on screen and how their relationship certainly works. But if anything, I'm really interested to kind of see where it goes, certainly for the both of them. I did have another comment in here. The only question that I would have, and this was probably the downside, and this is where, again, I will go and question continuity in some way. Again, I'm going to give the Grand Inquisitor thing to the end of the series. With the Leia thing, though, it's been maybe about a year or two since I went ahead and watched The New Hope again. You know, just looking at the hologram from A New Hope and the message that Leia pushes towards, oh, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope, right? She references the idea that you used to work alongside or fight alongside my father during the Clone Wars, yada, yada, yada. It always comes across as though they've never met. Like, she only knows him through her dad. If that's the impression you guys got from the original trilogy, let me know, because when I see this adventure, despite her being 10 years old, I feel like this is such an impactful moment in her life that it would almost ingrain some type of memory about Obi-Wan Kenobi, that they've interacted, that he saved her certainly before. But again, I'll give it to the end of the season, but it is one of those things where it's like, man, they're having a lot of interaction with each other. How does she not remember who he is by the time we get to A New Hope? That is a little bit baffling to me, because she is 10 years old at this point. So we're talking, what, 8, maybe 9 years until A New Hope. But I could be wrong in that. Go ahead and correct me in the comment section box below. But that would be my only issue. And so maybe I'll have to go back and check out A New Hope and see if it feels a little bit different. And then, of course, we do get the great line in here where Obi-Wan remembers Padme. You know, it's funny, because in the first episode that we did the review for, I said, man, if she doesn't remind you of her parents, I don't know what does, right? And he definitely sees a lot of Padme in her, in regards to just her boldness, the adventurer side of her. And trust me when I say there's definitely a little bit of Anakin in there as well, but certainly her mother is certainly shining through with them. But I thought it was great, man. I thought it was a great episode. Really enjoyed it, with the exception of, like I said, the Leia stuff and some questions in regards to the Grand Inquisitor. Episode 1, I personally thought was a little bit better than this, just because of the questions that I have for episode 2. But don't think I'm sleeping on episode 2, man. I definitely enjoyed it, certainly for what it was. Some more lightsabers. I'm waiting for that moment of Obi-Wan to go ahead and activate his lightsaber. If he even does, I would assume we're probably going to get ourselves another battle in here. They definitely have teased another battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. And just seeing, again, the abilities and the power that Obi-Wan has right now, this should be a really interesting confrontation, to certainly say the least. Couple other side mentions in here, real quick, honorable mentions. Kumail Nanjiani has in fact popped up in here. I believe we knew he was already cast in this particular series. How he was gonna be in this show, though, nobody quite knew, but he does in fact play a character by the name of Haja Estri. He's pretending to certainly be a Jedi, but he's clearly not. Winds up trying to swindle some money from some family members who were looking for safety. Does send them to safety, but certainly does so for a pretty hefty price. And in the process of trying to trick Obi-Wan Kenobi, Obi-Wan winds up utilizing him very well in this episode, and he even ends up assisting Obi-Wan and wind up getting off the planet with some new coordinates. So it looks like we're going to be introduced to another planet, because it doesn't seem like they're going back to Alderaan. It definitely seems as though they're probably trying to shake the Inquisitors from certainly locating them before they certainly head back. But I thought the introduction of Kumail in here really worked for me. I thought he brought a great balance of humor in here and a great performance. And then last but not least, man, we have ourselves a veteran clone trooper, as good old Tamora Morrison winds up actually returning, probably fresh off of his time from the Book of Boba Fett, as he winds up playing a veteran clone trooper who's homeless on Dayu, certainly looking for some money. I'm assuming that there's a part of me that wants to say that's not Rex, but if that is Rex, definitely go ahead and let me know. I would be fascinated to kind of see or learn how he got there, and at what point in time did Ahsoka wind up picking homeboy up and like cleaning him and dusting him off, if you will. But is that Rex? Go ahead and certainly let me know. I couldn't tell. I mean, all the clone troopers look the same, you know what I mean? And I couldn't really quite tell from his clone trooper's armor that he certainly had on, but I would definitely love to know there. But again, if anything, the Reva storyline continues to truly impress me, especially with Moses Ingram. And Ewan McGregor just continues to steal the show with just his incredible performance and the weight that you can really feel from just the story in here, and really making me love not only the chemistry he has with Leia, but really eager to see what this confrontation with Vader is certainly going to certainly look like. But remember, guys, at the end of the day, these are simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. What did you guys think of episode 2 of Obi-Wan? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, and we'll definitely go ahead and continue this conversation until next week's episode. But until then, guys, do me a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. May the Force be with you. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thank you.